Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into a seriously thrilling narrative that completely flips the traditional sports genre totally on its head. I mean, if you've ever watched or read a sports story, you already know the drill, right? It's all about athletes coming together, overcoming their differences, and winning through the sheer power of friendship and teamwork. But what if we took that entire wholesome concept, crumpled it up into a little ball, and just threw it right out the window? Well, that is exactly what the hit manga and anime series Blue Lock does. We're going to explore the fascinating story of the series and dissect a universe where the ultimate virtue isn't camaraderie, it's pure, unfiltered selfishness. Let's see how the story literally reshapes everything we thought we knew about sports narratives. To really wrap your head around the story, I want you to challenge everything you know about teamwork. We are so heavily conditioned to believe that the team is always greater than the individual. But Blue Lock presents this wild, radical counter-argument. What if the actual secret to creating the absolute best player in the world isn't about playing nice with others? What if it's about cultivating an absolute unyielding ego? The series argues that to be a world-class striker, the player who actually scores the goals and wins the games, you cannot be selfish. You literally have to be selfish. You must believe that you are the main character on that field. And to understand why this extreme philosophy takes root, we have to look at the inciting incident that kicks this whole thing off.
Picture this. The year is 2018, and the Japan national team has just suffered a really disappointing 16th place finish in the FIFA World Cup. Now, for a nation absolutely hungry for football glory, this isn't just a tough loss, it's a catastrophic failure. It exposes this deep systemic flaw in how they're playing the game. The Japan Football Union realizes that playing it safe, relying purely on polite teamwork, and just passing the ball when the pressure is on, well, it simply isn't cutting it on the global stage. They are missing something crucial. They're missing a star. Specifically, they're missing a striker who possesses just an overwhelming, monstrous hunger for goals. And as they say, desperate times call for incredibly desperate measures.
So to fix this massive national crisis, the Japan Football Union hires this guy named Jinpachi Ego. And let me tell you, Ego is not your traditional coach. He's this football enigma, a total mastermind with a radical, borderline dangerous philosophy about the sport. He looks at Japanese soccer and diagnoses the problem instantly. The players completely lack the fundamental selfishness required to be the absolute best. So his master plan to lead Japan to global stardom, it's not about running extra laps or doing, trust falls and team building exercises. It's about breaking these young athletes down mentally and rebuilding them into ruthless goal-scoring machines. And his method for actually pulling this off is the titular focus of our explainer today. Jinpachi's master plan is called Blue Lock. And listen, this isn't your typical summer training camp. Actually, scratch that. It's more like a brutal, dystopian prison-like facility. Jinpachi Ego designs this intense training regimen specifically to isolate the players from the outside world and subject them to extreme psychological and physical tests. The entire architecture of the Blue Lock program is meant to just strip away the reliance on others. It's a massive pressure cooker designed to extract one thing and one thing only, the world's greatest, most egotistic striker. It's a pure survival of the fittest environment, where only the most self-obsessed players can actually thrive. To truly grasp the insane scale of this psychological experiment, just imagine 300 of the most promising high school forwards from across all of Japan all locked inside this facility together. I mean, 300 hormonal teenagers in one building is a nightmare under normal circumstances, but here, it's a brutal zero-sum game. These are incredibly talented kids, right? They're all used to being the absolute star player on their local teams. And suddenly, they're thrown into this single, enclosed environment. And here is the major catch. They are all competing for exactly one spot on the national team. For one person to succeed, 299 others must fail. The sheer volume of competitors turns every single drill, every meal, and every interaction into a cutthroat battle for survival. And the stakes, they couldn't be higher. Jinpachi Ego makes a terrifying promise to these 300 kids. He tells them, if you fail out of the Blue Lock facility, you will be permanently banned from ever representing the Japan national team. Boom. Your dream of playing on the world stage is dead forever. There are absolutely no second chances. There's no fallback plan. By just walking through those doors, these high schoolers are gambling their entire athletic futures. This immense pressure acts as a catalyst, basically forcing the players to abandon their polite, team-oriented mentalities and fully embrace their inner monster just to survive the program. So our eyes and ears inside all this madness is a kid named Yoichi Asagi. He's a relatively unknown high school player, and when he first enters Blue Lock, he is deeply conflicted. See, Asagi represents the traditional idealized version of a sports protagonist.
In fact, right before joining the facility, he actually lost a crucial match simply because he chose to pass the ball to a teammate instead of taking the winning shot himself. He embodies that classic team-first mentality, but upon entering Blue Lock, it hits him. To survive here, he has to completely deconstruct his own playing style. He has to unlearn the virtues of selflessness. Watching Asagi grapple with his own morality while trying to awaken his dormant ego, honestly, that's what gives this story its beating heart. Because think about it, usually we celebrate the traditional team player, that archetype we all know and love. They communicate, they sacrifice, they share the glory. But Blue Lock champions the exact opposite, the egotistic striker. This is the player who demands the ball, destroys their opponents, and will literally devour their own teammates' potential just to secure a goal for themselves. And the brilliant part about Blue Lock is that it actively forces us to root for this selfish archetype. We sit there watching these characters evolve from cooperative teammates into these brilliant, arrogant, and unstoppable individual forces. It is such a ruthless, fun subversion of everything the sports genre usually stands for. This dynamic is so intense that an IGN reviewer actually compared Blue Lock to the massive hit series Squid Game. And you know what? It is a perfect comparison. While the matches themselves are, still games of soccer, the atmosphere inside the facility completely feels like a high-stakes death game. The intense visual metaphors, the psychological warfare going on between the characters, and that constant looming threat of a career-ending elimination, it all gives the series this survival thriller vibe that goes way, way beyond a typical sports tournament arc. You aren't just watching a soccer match, you are watching desperate athletes fight for their very lives in a sporting sense.
And as you can probably guess, this incredible premise quickly exploded into a real-world multimedia juggernaut. The franchise has moved at absolute breakneck speed since the original manga, written by Muneyuki Kaneshiro and illustrated by Yusuke Nomura, debuted back in August 2018. It caught fire almost immediately. By October 2022, we got a phenomenal anime adaptation by Studio 8-Bit that really brought those intense visuals straight to the screen. Then in 2024, the franchise hit theaters with the episode Nagi anime film, which focused on a huge fan-favorite character. And looking ahead, there's even a live-action film adaptation slated for August 2026. This isn't just a popular story anymore. It has completely captured the global imagination. To put that popularity into perspective, by June 2026, the manga had amassed over 60 million copies in circulation worldwide. Let me just repeat that. 60 million copies. That elevates Blue Lock into the incredibly rare tier of the best-selling manga series of all time. It just proves that there is a massive, super hungry audience out there for this darker, more psychologically intense take on sports. The whole concept of discarding the power of friendship for unapologetic ambition clearly resonated with millions of readers who were just looking for something fresh, aggressive, and undeniably captivating. But it's not just commercial success, it's got massive critical acclaim too. Blue Lock absolutely dominated as the best-selling manga in the first half of 2023. It won the prestigious 45th Kodansha Manga Award in the Shonen category. It even crossed international borders to become a Harvey Award nominee. And in 2023, it secured the new Face Award at the Japan Character Awards. Critics and industry pros alike basically recognized that Blue Lock wasn't just being edgy for the sake of being edgy. It was a tightly written, phenomenally illustrated thriller that successfully executed a totally absurd dystopian premise. But perhaps the absolute craziest part of this whole phenomenon is how a fictional story started altering real-world football. You'd think a manga directly criticizing traditional teamwork might be shunned by actual sports institutions, right? But the exact opposite happened. The series collaborated with real-life club FC Tokyo. English Premier League giants Liverpool FC even hosted a Blue Lock exhibition. They teamed up with CONCACAF for exclusive merchandise, which was the first time a major football confederation ever collaborated with a sports manga. And most incredibly, inspired by the series, the actual Japan Football Association launched a future camp initiative specifically aimed at cultivating young talent using these intense, striker-focused philosophies. Fiction literally changed reality. No way, right? So as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with the thought directly from the mind of Jinpachi Ego. Do you have the ego to survive Blue Lock? It's a pretty provocative question, isn't it? We spend our whole lives being told to blend in, to be a team player, to pass the ball. But Blue Lock asks us to consider the value of absolute self-belief. It asks us if, when the game is on the line and literally everything is at stake, do we have the arrogance and the skill to take the shot ourselves? It's a fascinating look at the psychology of elite performance, and it's exactly what makes this story an absolute must-experience. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and remember,
Sometimes it takes just a little bit of ego to change the world.